During the eclipse, we also look forward to the crew members describing what they will see, which includes unique light features like the shape and size of the corona and potentially even lunar dust. At the same time, Venus, Saturn, Mars, and Mercury will be near the sun, so they may be able to identify what part of the sky they're looking at. This can help train future Artemis astronauts on what part of the sky they're seeing, which is useful knowledge in challenging situations when they may need to rely on that information instead of instruments for navigation and orientation. That eclipse window will last about an hour, and it'll happen near the end of the day today, closer to 7:35 p.m. Central, 8:35 Eastern. Back at the windows, taking photos and making annotations. About halfway through this block, they will switch positions at the windows and will be prompted by the ground to do so.
I'll just talk about the experience that I had during Victor and my observation time. It was an incredible experience. We definitely noted how much more you can see with the zoom lens. Even though we have a great visible eye image, there's just a lot of texture that just pops right out at you when you can zoom in. So almost just using it like a telescope, the camera lens. We really enjoyed our discussion time. That was a great innovation on the lunar targeting plan. We were both able to describe a lot more kind of with flow, I would say, when we were talking to each other. And it was also, we sort of were able to bounce ideas off of each other and come to new conclusions. We had, I think, a very successful talking through of some contacts between different color areas, both in the Mare and in the Highlands, and we identified some really unique texture areas as well. At one point, towards the end of the images of my time in window 3, I just had an overwhelming sense of being moved by looking at the moon. It lasted just a second or two, and I actually couldn't even make it happen again. But something just drew me in suddenly to the lunar landscape, and it became real. And the truth is, the moon really is its own body in the universe. It's not just a poster in the sky that goes by. It is a real place. And when we have that perspective and we compare it to our home of the Earth, it just reminds us how much we have in common. Everything we need, the Earth provides, and that in and of itself is somewhat of a miracle, and one that you can't truly know until you've had the perspective of the other. I'll switch into some logistics stuff. The Peltors, both their batteries stopped providing the active listening, but we have verified they are still recording, and so we are able to have discussion time and hear outside our recordings by just moving the ear cup off of the ear. Other than that, everything's working well technically, and we've been able to find all our targets, and we're having a really great time.
Thanks, Christina. We copy those logistics for the Peltors, and also thanks for bringing us into the cabin with you with that description.
Christina Koch, a mission specialist for Artemis II, calling down a science SITREP, a situation report. Good news, reporting that she and her teammates have been able to capture all targets that were listed. Christina also gave a vibrant description of just how it feels to be there and to see the moon up close and not just something passing in our night sky. Currently, the team members at the window are Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen. Meanwhile,
Integrity cabin team for window Shroud.
We're listening. Go ahead, Jenny.
Hey, Victor, we have a temperature constraint on the windows, and the shroud might be getting us close, so we just want to check on the state of window 4's shroud, whether you believe it's still necessary because maybe things have changed with our viewing, and if so, we would like to request to have the shroud removed.
Houston, we believe it is necessary. We pulled it off just as a corner. It is very bright. It definitely would affect our night vision and maybe comfort. But is there a time? Can you tell us when we would have to take it off by?
Unfortunately, since it's been on for a while, we are going to have to request that the shroud is removed, and we can recommend something that could block the light but just create a bit of distance between the window and whatever is covering it. Something like a t-shirt would do the trick and help.
Okay, we're removing the shroud, and we'll make it work. Thanks.
Thank you, Victor. We know it's pretty bright in there now with that window uncovered. We will also offer that airflow on the window would be helpful, so if you want, you can also retrieve the condensation hose, which should be friction fit onto one of the diffusers, and that on the window would also help.
We can easily point a diffuser at the window, so we're going to start with that, and it's pointing at the window now.
Okay, we'll take that, Victor. Thank you. Please keep us updated.
Astronaut and Artemis II crew back up to the crew aboard Orion, letting them know that they will need to remove the window shroud they had placed on window 4. They initially placed that shroud there to block out some of the light from the Earth. It was extremely bright coming in the cabin and interfering with some of their viewing opportunities out at the moon. This was a request from ground teams to ensure that they are protecting other systems, and the crew has been offered the opportunity to use something else to cover the window. Meanwhile, Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen continue with their lunar flyby observations. They have just looked at Glushko Crater. That's about when we heard that call down from Christina Koch with that description of everything she had been seeing during her observation period and what she was seeing at that time. The science team asked this crew to take centered images of the entire crater and their ray system in one frame. They're also interested in knowing the brightness, texture, and extent of Glushko's rays and how they differ in the Mare, or that sea area, versus the Highlands. Glushko is considered a young lunar crater, and these observations can help understand material properties of those craters.
Science, integrity. First, I wanted to start off with connecting with what Christina said, that it was very moving to look out the window. I had the unfortunate sequence to start looking out the window and then moved to the long lens, and it was hard to speak. looking through the Zoom, because I went straight where Christina went, and I was walking around down there on the surface, climbing and off-roading on that amazing terrain. I also want to underscore something that she said. As we continue to explore, when we actually do go down there to the surface, I know for safety reasons that we would never send someone alone, but I just want to really emphasize how important the discussion time was. When we started to talk, we not only got better science discussion, we got better human connection, and so doing this as a pair, we just learn and grow together, and that's just super important, so thank you for adding that to this plan. Reed just passed me a note that the Orientale Basin annular ring has a similar albedo to the center, but a different color. It has more brownish tones in it, and he said it's very distinct now that he's been staring at it.
Victor, thank you. You got a cheer from science there, and we all just went on that moonwalk with you, so highlighting how important it is to talk about these things. I also want to let you know that we have Deanna Glover with us in the viewing gallery. She's all smiles.
Well, you just got a bunch of cheers up here. Hey, babe. I love you from the moon.
We love that we got a hey babe too, and we also have one of your lovely daughters here watching you guys work.
Thank you guys for doing that and for supporting them through this. And to all of you, Genesis, Maya, Joya, and Corinne, I love you. And Deanna, I love you. I'm glad you get to be there.
We've had some really sweet words from the crew members aboard Orion today, as their families have been able to filter in and out of the viewing room here at Artemis Mission Control at Johnson Space Center in Houston. Victor Glover also giving a great science sit rep and just a description of how it must feel if you were down on the lunar surface while he was looking through that 80 to 400 millimeter zoom lens. He also expressed how important it was to be able to talk through that real time with Christina Koch and stress the importance of that on future missions, that it not only made their discussions better, but also more human. Glover and Cook are in the support roles right now, not taking photos or making annotations at the windows, but they are also encouraged to have their midday meal at this time. For lunch today, those two crew members have options of beef ravioli, salmon, butternut squash, sweet and savory kale, pickled beets, cherry blueberry cobbler, tuna noodle casserole, tomatoes and artichokes, broccoli, and chocolate peanut butter bar. Once Glover and Cook return to the window portion of their flyby today, Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen will get into their midday meal. Again, this is the third of 5 scheduled blocks for our lunar viewing today, and if you were watching at the start of the broadcast, you can definitely tell the difference in the distance from the moon. We are now 5,518 miles away from the lunar surface, and again, expecting the crew to get about 4,066 miles away. They are currently 252,050 miles away from Earth, and every mile is a new record, having surpassed the Apollo 13 milestone for furthest distance earlier today. If you look down to the bottom right of the moon in that darker looking area, that is Orientale Basin. We have continued to lose views of the near side. It is just barely visible over towards the bottom right side of your screen. And then you'll also hear later about that terminator. That's the line between light and darkness while on the moon. It is really exposing some of those craters at this time. A couple of the other features in view right now are Hertzsprung Basin and Vavilov Crater. Hertzsprung Basin is nearer to the center of the moon, closer to that terminator line right now, and Vavilov Crater is just on the outskirts of it, closer again to the terminator. Towards the bottom of the moon and to the left of the terminator line, or currently shadowed in darkness, is Apollo Basin.
Science from integrity. Let me find out how far we are from the moon right now. But our view is about a third of the moon is in eclipse. That beautiful terminator is out there calling to me. We're 4,691 miles from the moon. And what looked like in the terminator about a third of the way up from the southernmost part of the terminator looked like a dinosaur print if one was running to the northwest. Now is clearly a crater with a bunch of craters around it. And that terminator, I can only see about half of it. I'm looking through the docking hatch window right now because we have the Z9 in window 1. But that terminator has moved. I guess I've been using Vavilov the whole time, so it's gone 2 more Vavilov craters to the west, and so a few more features are starting to peek out into the sunlight there with that low sun angle, and so you still have ridges and valleys showing up very clearly, a very jagged terminator, and a few islands of light out there with some high elevation shining in the sunlight in that darkness. And on the eastern side of the moon, Grimaldi appears to be one of the farthest east features, and that is maybe 5 degrees from being right on the limb and going off over the horizon. It is interesting, just looking at Orientale, that my first impression of it is all of the dark areas appear lighter, which I think makes sense because it is now facing, well, it's still relatively the same to the sun, but my angle to it is different. So I'm looking at it from a little more, even further to the side as we pass it. But all the darker features appear to be just a little bit lighter from this vantage point. The darker ring structure in the outer and inner ring and the interior, as well as the annular ring portion, everything seems to be just a smidge lighter at this point.
Thanks for that description, Ike. Any additional words you can provide on Orientale would be wonderful, as that is such a high priority target for us. And while I have you, as we get closer to target 15, which is the Terminator target, if you can find Zeeman Crater again that you were looking at earlier, everything to your left of Zeeman would be getting into the South Pole Aiken area to help you orient yourself.
Zeeman is a great waypoint out there. I definitely see it. Yeah, Zeeman is very easy to find, and that is awesome. Thank you for pointing that out. Feel free to do that as often as you think of things. Let's see, looking back at Orientale. Okay, another thing, after looking through the zoom camera, man, you guys are smart. You probably did this on purpose, but after looking with my plain eyes and then going to the 400 millimeter zoom, now looking at it, I see the cliff face as if you were standing in the center. That inner and outer ring have definitely some real terrain to them, and now I can see that as terrain. Now that I look at it even with my naked eye, I can tell that there's a lot of elevation and that, like I said, a cliff face on that eastern edge where all the darker deposits are. And it's just the scale now. Looking at it from far away, before it seemed like flat with color painted on it, but now that I look at it, I can definitely see that there is, different depositional characteristics, and so the darker is some other material, but there's also some shadowing going on because of the cliff face that is a part of that crater wall.
Great description, Victor. Thanks, and really interesting to hear now the distinction between shadow and color. Before I let you go back to other observations, you mentioned that Reed saw a browner hue to the annular ring than the rest of Orientale. Are you seeing that from your vantage point?
The way that I'm looking at Orientale, again, I'm still in the docking hatch window. There's like a thermocouple right here in the center of the window, and it is the orange Kapton tape color, and so it is unfortunately it's like trying to look at stars, next to a metropolis. I think it's drowning out any color that I could pick up from the moon. I am not able to see that color, but I have not looked at it through one of the forward face, from one of the windows 1 through 4. I think when I get away from this Kapton tape strip that I would be able to see the variation that Reed's talking about.
That is great feedback operationally. Thanks, Victor. I'll leave you to it.